에, 예, 에, 예.
왜 웃어? 아 진짜 똑같아. 진짜로 약간
에, 예, 에.
Hello friends! Today I will be presenting to you the last video you will ever need for learning the Korean alphabet Hangul. Because today we will learn Hangul the correct way. In a recent video, I warned people trying to learn Korean not to learn the language through romanization, so writing non-Latin words in Latin letters. The danger of that is that you will end up with completely weird pronunciations, since Latin letters are simply not meant to fully express all sounds of Hangul. Also, although there is an official system for romanization in Korea, this system is pretty much geared towards English speakers, so it doesn't make a lot of sense if you are speaking another language. Also, that system is still pretty bad. One of the most tragic examples of this chaos is the Korean surname Lee. It is the second most common surname in Korea, and it's just Lee. But it is romanized as Lee, Ji, Ri, Rie, and I. So what I will do today is teach you Hangul via the sounds only, so that you never have to rely on romanization again. As to why you should consider taking advice from a random non-Korean girl on the internet about learning Korean, although I won't be able to scientifically explain the roots of Korean or anything like that, precisely because I'm not Korean, I understand much better which parts of the language non-native speakers are struggling with and can share my tips accordingly. Also, I did study Korean for the better part of a decade now, have been living here for 5 years and even made it to level 6 of the topic language test, so I think by now I kind of know what I'm talking about. So if you're ready to give my new approach to Hangul a chance, let's get started. We will be looking at the Korean alphabet in the official order, so try to remember it that way because it can be helpful later on if you're trying to look something up in a dictionary. We will start with the 14 consonants, and because in Korean every syllable has to consist of at least one consonant and one vowel, I will create such pairs for my examples. So, while going through the consonants, I will add the vowel a to each of them for easier comprehension. And a last little fun fact before we get started, all consonants in Korean actually have names. So the consonant g actually is called giok. The one for d is tiget, and so on. However, you will never actually have to know these names, so I will just skip them entirely in this video. But if you do have some additional storage space in your brain, feel free to look them up and learn them too. Now, let's get started for real. The first letter that kind of looks like somebody draw a square but stopped halfway through is g. So our syllable is ga. Ga, ga. The second letter that kind of looks like an L that has been squished together is not an L, but actually n, na, na, na. The third letter that kind of looks like a very angular C is the, da, da, da. The fourth letter to me looks like a 2 that you wrote on a calculator, so again very angular, and it is l, la. La, la. This consonant is the first one that is a bit tricky because it is kind of between an L and an R sound. However, it is never a hard R like r coming from your throat. That's never the sound. Rather, it can become a rolling R from your tongue, so kind of like r, r. I'm really not good at rolling my R's, but especially some Spanish speakers might be very good at this. So yeah, it can be the rolling R, but never the hard throat R. To give an easy example on when the letter is pronounced as L and when as R, let's take a look at my name, Elena. Elena in Korean is written like this, so you have the syllable L, Le, Na. As you can see, there are two consecutive L's, and if two L's are directly behind each other, they will be the L sound, the soft one, L. However, for example, if my name were Irena, it would be written like this, E, Re, Na. So if there's only one L consonant, it will be the rolled R sound. So the hardest version of this name that you would get is Irena, but never Irena. The fifth letter looks like we have 1/3 of the invitation card of Squid Game, and it is M, Ma, Ma, Ma. The sixth letter is B, so Ba, Ba, Ba. The seventh letter is S, so our syllable is Sa, Sa, Sa. However, there is one anomaly with this letter. Normally, the pronunciation of this consonant is S, a sharp S, S, kind of like a snake, right? Slithering around. So combined with an A, it's Sa, combined with U, it's Su, and combined with U, it's Su. However, only if you combine this consonant with the vowel E will the pronunciation change to Sh, Sh. Kind of like you're shushing someone, telling them to be quiet, Shh. So the syllable will be she, she, she. So remember, it's Sa, So, Su, but she. The eighth letter is the NG sound. And I don't mean this in the Korean way where the letters NG stand for blooper, but rather the sound of this consonant is NG or ng, like in the words ring or thing or king. So more than a sound, the NG consonant kind of feels like you're closing off your throat. Thing, you know, that kind of feeling. This letter also has a special function. When it is located at the end of a syllable, it is pronounced as ng. For example, in this syllable, kang, kang, kang. However, if it is written at the start of a syllable, it has no sound at all. Vowels are kind of discriminated against in Hangul, so they are not allowed to stand at the start of a syllable. So even if a word or a syllable starts with a vowel sound, this NG will be put in front as a placeholder. If we took a look again at my name, Elena, which obviously starts with an E, I still have to write the NG consonant at the very front because a syllable cannot begin with a vowel. So remember, at the start, no sound, at the end, sound. And I'm just realizing that next to the from before, it now looks like we have 2/3 of our Squid Game invitation card. Our next letter is the J, which has a sound that is a mix of a J, like Jeep or Jaguar, with a little bit of a D mixed in. When you say the syllable ja, your tongue kind of touches the roof of your mouth a little bit, so you have this kind of D sounding effect at the beginning of the syllable. Ja, ja, ja. Consonant number 10 is actually the half sibling of the J we just learned, and it's ch, cha, cha, cha. As you can see, the only visible difference between these two consonants is the little extra line at the cha. You can just think of this extra line being the thing that turns the soft ja into the harder cha. The next letter is also one such evolution with an extra line added for hardness, and it is k or ka, ka, ka. So before we had ga, now we have ka. And to complete the trio of these hardened letters with an extra line, we have t, ta, ta, ta. The key to pronouncing these 3 hardened letters right is to check your breath. And I don't mean the smell of it, I mean the way in which you exhale. While saying these letters, you have to exhale a lot more sharply than before. So a good way to check yourself is put your hand in front of your mouth and feel how much air comes out of it. So if before we had the relaxed ga, 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 you shouldn't actually feel a lot of air on your hand. Of course, you can feel your breath, but it should be very diffused and soft. However, if you say ka, 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 you should feel a distinct breeze of air hitting your hand, so that's how you know you pronounced it right. So keep that in mind when trying to practice pronouncing these letters. This next letter is also a harder evolution of a previous one, but unfortunately here the little one extra line rule does not apply. And it is p, pa, pa, pa. So earlier we had ba and now we have pa. Fortunately, number 14, the last simple consonant, is very easy again. It is h, h, the H sound. So ha, ha, ha. And finally, last in the consonant department, we have 5 so-called double consonants. So these double consonants are just consonants we learned before, but 2 of them kind of squeeze together. So the good thing is you don't have to learn to write any new consonants, but just take 2 and squeeze them together. These double consonants exist for ga, da, ba, sa, and ja. They are ga, da, ba, sa, and ja. And the whole point of these guys is that you have to pronounce them with more tension. Before, with the harder version of some consonants, we had more breath, sharper breath, but now you need more tension in your throat. I know this explanation might not sound very helpful at first, but let me show you what I mean. Let's take our syllable ga. The base version is without sharp breath and without tension, just ga. The sharp or hard version is ka. And the tense version with the double consonant is ga, ga, ga. You should be able to feel the tension around here in your throat when you try to pronounce this syllable. And if you feel like, what the hell, woman, these all sound the same as before, let me put them side by side for you, so hopefully you will hear the difference.
Ka, ka, ga. Ta, ta, da. Ba, pa, ba. Sa, sa. Ja, cha, ja.
Bye. As I hope you can hear, the first syllable is the most relaxed one. The second one is where you exhale sharply, and the third one is where you have more tension, so the whole syllable will feel a little bit more powerful and louder. Don't feel too discouraged if you're not able to distinguish between these 3 versions right away. They usually are one of the hardest parts of the Korean language for non-native speakers to learn. But if you keep repeating them and checking your breath and the tension in your throat, you should be able to get the hang of them soon. And now we finally got to the second half of the Korean alphabet, the vowels. Half of the Korean vowels are super simple, but the other half has always been kind of confusing for me because they all sound the same, but are written differently. Huh? Writing-wise, I feel like vowels are much simpler than the consonants because they usually just have one long horizontal line with a short vertical one, or a long vertical line with a short horizontal one. And then you just combine these lines in all kind of ways and get different sounds. So first on the list, with a long vertical line and a small horizontal one on the left, we have a, a, a. And as I mentioned, we need to put the placeholder ng in front of the vowel, but it is not spoken. If you just add a small second horizontal line, a will change to ya, ya, ya. Take that same vertical line and add one small horizontal on the right this time, and you get o, o, o. And again, a second small line makes it a ya, ya, ya. Now we have the first vowel with a long horizontal line. O, o, o. And for me, one of the most difficult things while learning Korean was to distinguish between o and o. In German, which is my native language, we don't have this concept of different O sounds, so I confused O and O like there was no tomorrow. Literally, the word 여보세요 was my number one enemy because there were 3 O sounds in there that I could just all confuse with each other. So while trying to write this word down, I would end up with some strange looking things like 여보세요 or something like that. Oh, horrible. But if you learn the difference correctly from the beginning, you should be able to do much better than me. And one little tip to tell these two apart, with the O, your mouth is open a little bit wider and the sound is a bit brighter or higher. And with the U, your mouth is really almost closed. There's just this tiny little hole and it sounds a little bit deeper. O, O, U, U. O, O, U, U. Of course, if we add a second little line to the U, it turns into yo. And one of the uses of this yo is being the marker of the casually polite speech level in Korean. So if somebody keeps ending their sentences with yo, you know that they are talking at least somewhat politely with you. If we turn that whole thing on its head so that the little line is going downwards, we get u, u, u. And you know it already, a second little line makes this a you, you. U. My favorite vowel by far is just a single horizontal line that sounds like I'm not joking. A little bit like you're saying ew, like ooh, I don't like that. So That's actually kind of close to one of the German Umlaute, so I really like it. The next vowel, unfortunately, is the last very easy to remember vowel because it already looks like a capital I and it is the I sound in Korean. So E, E, E. Now it gets a bit tricky because we have arrived at the combined vowels. Here we will first take the E vowel and combine it with a bunch of other vowels to get new sounds. The first of this combination is E plus A. Although if you look at the sequence, I guess it would be A plus E. You don't read the vowels one after the other, so it's not I, but it gets squished together to E. If you combine ya and E, it's the same principle as before and you get ye. Now we combine O and E and get, unfortunately, another E. I told you the second half would be confusing. The combined vowels A plus E and O plus E sound pretty much identical. And in everyday conversations, you will not be able to hear if a Korean person said or but you will be able to know the word from context. And if you add a second small line, we get, you guessed it, ye. So all 4 of them together are ye and ye. Easy, right?
예.
왜 웃어? 아 진짜 똑같아. 진짜로 약간. Let's keep going to the next combined vowel. Now we have O plus E. 왜. It kind of sounds like a crying baby, right? Like 왜. If you try to remember that, you should be good. Also, this is the first of 3 combined vowels that sound 99% the same, so keep it in mind for a little bit later. U plus E is oui. Kind of like the French yes, oui. Oui, madame, oui, monsieur. My favorite vowel, U plus E, is ui. Now we have some new combinations without the E. U plus A is wa. One of the easiest combined vowels, I think. One thing to keep in mind though with this wa is that while it is very close to a W sound in English, it is not va, where your teeth actually touch your lips, va. No, it is wa. So keep that in mind. U and O are wo. Again, no explicit W sound, just wo. O and the already combined vowel E sound like we. we, we. And this is the second of the 3 vowels that sound so similar. And the last combined vowel in this trio is U plus E, which is we again. I guess you could say there's a little bit more of a U at the beginning, like we. But I don't know, man. It's just, I told you it would be confusing. So this trio next to each other is we, and we. I'm not the one who invented this.
왜, 잠깐 다시 할게.
But again, even Koreans don't distinguish between these sounds in a casual conversation, so you won't have to know which of the ways is being used. You just have to know that different ways exist. In reality, I would say the first way is used most often, meaning most words, most vocabulary is written with this way. The second way is actually mostly used for the question particle why. And the last way is used a lot when foreign words are written in Korean. So if you want to write the English word wedding in Korean, you would use this way to write wedding. And that's it! Oh my god, guys, you did so well. Congratulations! Now that you have learned all the letters, you are able to read any Korean piece of writing, be it a newspaper, a novel, or a scientific paper. You might not understand what it is you are reading, but you can read it out loud, which already is pretty cool. Before we wrap up this lesson, let me just say that in writing Korean, we already know that we need at least 1 consonant or placeholder plus 1 vowel. However, there is also a limit to how many letters you can put in a syllable, and that limit is 4. For example, the word 삶, life. If all 4 seats are taken up in a syllable, but you still have word left to go, you will have to start the second syllable. Also, generally, the vowels that have a long vertical line are written next to the consonant, and the ones with a long horizontal line are written below the consonant. So that's a good guideline to keep in mind when you write down Korean words. I really hope today's lesson was helpful to you, and if it was, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. Feel free to leave any questions you might still have in the comments below, and until next time, I hope you stay happy and healthy. Bye bye!